A new conspiracy theory has taken over the internet, and people are asking whether or not we're actually living in a simulation. You've probably seen the tweets and Reddit posts floating around with people saying things like, "Here's why we're 100% living in a simulation." But what do experts say about this? Is there any real evidence to support the idea that our world isn't real? And if so, is there anything we can do to prove it? Welcome back to our channel, where today we're going to take a look at the latest viral conspiracy theory making the rounds on the internet, the simulation theory. If you're new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos like this one. Let's get started. In May of this year, a Twitter user posted a thread arguing that all the strange occurrences happening in the world right now, from UFO sightings to unexplained illnesses and sudden celebrity deaths, were signs that we were in fact living in a simulation. Since then, the post has gone viral, with thousands of people sharing their thoughts and adding to the conversation. So what exactly did this person say in their thread that had people convinced we're all living in a simulation? Let's take a closer look. If you think about it, they start all the weird stuff that's been happening recently, the UFO stuff, sudden illness of celebrities, death of celebrities, the whole pandemic situation just seems to be bizarre and too much for us to handle mentally as humans. They go on to point out how each of these events individually would be considered shocking, but the fact that they're all happening at once is even more difficult to process. This user isn't the first to make this argument either. The simulation hypothesis has been discussed for years by philosophers and scientists, but only now is it starting to gain traction online. So what exactly is the simulation hypothesis? The simulation hypothesis is the idea that the reality we are experiencing is not real, but rather a computer simulation created by a more advanced civilization. Proponents of the theory argue that if we continue to advance technologically, eventually we will reach a point where we are able to create simulations of our own. At some point, they reason, this technology will become so advanced that it will be indistinguishable from the real world. As Nick Bostrom, a professor of philosophy at the University of Oxford, puts it, if we assume that human civilization goes through a lot of history, there will come some point where we are able to run ancestor simulations. If we do run these simulations, and there's nothing to say we won't, it seems highly likely that most of the people who are born into these simulations will think that they are living in the real world. But what does this mean for us? Are we really living in a simulation right now? According to Bostrom, there's no way to know for sure, but there are some things we can look for that might give us clues. One of the most popular arguments used by those who believe we're living in a simulation is the Fermi paradox. This paradox points out the contradiction between the high probability of extraterrestrial life and the fact that we haven't found any yet. As Fermi reasoned, if there are other civilizations out there that are more advanced than us, why haven't they contacted us? Why are we alone? One possible explanation, according to Bostrom, is that we are in fact alone. But another possibility is that they have visited us. It's a small possibility, he says, but it's one we should at least consider. However, while this may seem like a compelling argument, many experts disagree. Stephen Hawking, for example, believed that the Fermi paradox was based on a false premise. He argued that we shouldn't assume that other civilizations would want to contact us. I think the chances of a benevolent extraterrestrial species visiting us are close to zero, he said. I think the more advanced they are, the less interested they would be in coming here. I think if they were much more advanced than us, they would be appalled by our warlike and destructive nature. Another argument used by those who believe we're living in a simulation is there are many things that have happened in our world that we simply can't explain. From the origin of life itself to the existence of black holes, Some argue that these unexplained phenomena are evidence of a greater intelligence at work, a creator of some kind, but others argue that it's simply a sign that we don't understand the universe well enough. We don't need, they say, to invoke the supernatural when there is still so much we don't know about the natural world. One thing that many people seem to have forgotten is that science is always evolving. What may seem inexplicable today could be commonplace tomorrow. Take black holes, for example. For centuries, people believed that the very idea of a black hole was impossible. Then in the early 20th century, Einstein's theory of general relativity predicted their existence. And now we know that they're not only possible, but that they're a fundamental part of the universe. The same will likely be true of other things that we currently don't understand. Eventually, our knowledge will grow, and what was once inexplicable will become commonplace. Still, there are some who remain convinced that we're living in a simulation, and there are even some who claim that they have proof. One such person is Elon Musk. The tech billionaire has long been fascinated by the simulation hypothesis and has even spoken about it on several occasions. In a 2019 interview with Rolling Stone, Musk said that his intuition tells him that we're living in a simulation. "I'm not super religious, but I do think that there's a good chance that we're living in a simulation," he said. When asked for evidence, Musk pointed to things like the increasing power of computers and the fact that we have found any other life in the universe. "It's kind of like, what is the probability that we're in the base reality and not in a simulation?" he said. "I think that's a reasonable question." While many people are skeptical of Musk's claims, there is one thing that everyone can agree on. Our world is becoming more and more digital by the day. We live in a time where virtual reality is becoming mainstream, and where people spend more time online than they do in the real world. It's easy to see why some people believe that we're already living in a simulation. After all, if we continue on our current trajectory, it's only a matter of time before we can create simulations that are indistinguishable from reality. However, it's important to remember that just because something is possible doesn't mean that it's true. We don't know if we're living in a simulation, and we probably never will. But what we do know is that our world is changing rapidly, and we need to be prepared for whatever the future brings. What do you think? Are we living in a simulation? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. Researchers at the University of Göttingen in Germany have developed a new method for determining whether or not someone is awake or in a dream. Their findings were published in the journal Scientific Reports, and the results are truly fascinating. The researchers found that they were able to correctly identify whether or not someone was dreaming in 83% of cases. They did this by monitoring brain activity using electrons. They also monitored eye movements and muscle activity. The participants were woken up at random times during the night and asked to report whether or not they were dreaming. Through this process, the researchers were able to build a database of brain activity patterns that correlated with dreaming and non-dreaming states. Using this database, they were then able to develop an algorithm that could accurately identify when someone was dreaming. This new method has a number of potential applications. For example, it could be used to help people who have difficulty waking up from a nightmare. By monitoring brain activity, the algorithm could wake the person up just as they're having the nightmare, effectively preventing them from fully waking up and remembering the dream. It could also be used to help people who suffer from sleep paralysis, a condition in which a person is conscious but unable to move. By identifying when someone is in a state of sleep paralysis, the algorithm could alert medical professionals, who could then intervene and help the person. But perhaps the most interesting application of this new technology is in the field of virtual reality. Imagine a virtual reality environment that responds to your dreams. In such an environment, Your dreams could become a shared experience, a way for you to interact with others, even while you're sleeping. The possibilities are really endless. This new technology is still in its early stages, but it has the potential to revolutionize the way we understand and interact with the world around us. Who knows? Maybe one day we'll all be living in a world that's indistinguishable from our dreams.